My name is Paul Hornby. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I'd like to thank ONE for inviting myself here, particularly Bojidar and ONE team. And it's always an honor to present to audiences that a very controversial subject. And I enjoy doing it, particularly to people who don't really know about cannabis and its effects and what a really interesting and powerful plant it is. I'm going to give a very general talk today, very basic on cannabidiol, which is a major active of the cannabis plant, along with THC, which everyone's heard about. CBD, well, let me get into a bit of my background. Like I said, I have a doctorate degree in human pathology, and my interests have always been in compounds and how they affect human physiology. And in the 1980s, I've often said they made the mistake of sending me to India during my PhD training. Because in India I was exposed to Ayurvedic medicine and herbal medicines. I saw a lot of old people in India that weren't on heart meds or antidepressants, were using natural medicine, and I began thinking about synthetic medicine and how it works and how natural product medicine works, and I turned my interest into natural compounds as medicine. And I've always had the opportunity of using high-tech equipment like HPLC and GCMS. I was trained on HPLC about 7 years after the technology came out, and have used HPLC for more than 30 years. And I applied high-tech instrumentation to ancient medicines. And when I came back to Canada, after working for a contract lab for a number of years, I started my own company, which is a research and development company. And the purpose of that company was to standardize and quality control herbal medicines that were being sold in Canada. And within a year or two after starting that company, I had a Russian immigrant that we call Dukabors in Canada, who are the plant people of the immigrants, the foreign people. And he brought me this little bag of tea from a city called Grand Forks in the interior of the province that I live in. And he was selling it out of a shop and had little old ladies coming up to him on the street, giving him a hug, thanking him for a good night's sleep. And he wanted to sell this tea on the market, and at that time I was analyzing hemp, and I said, sure, I can measure the cannabinoids. He wanted to make sure that THC was less than 0.3%, which is the allowable limit. And I measured it, indeed it was less than 0.3%, but there's no way the government would ever license him to sell this. And what he did is introduce myself to the woman that began the first dispensary in Vancouver. A tremendously gifted diplomat who talked to the police, the fire department, and the city, and was finally able to open up a storefront where she sold cannabis to people that had a doctor's prescription. This was made from hemp seedlings, which are highly nutritious. And there's not only medical value in cannabis, but there's also nutritional value. And does anybody know whether cannabis is a fruit, vegetable, or herb? Herb. It's all three. It's a fruit, it has seed, it has a fleshy part that you can eat. It's a vegetable, which has a really broad culinary term. It's just a plant that you eat. So cannabis is all three, covers all bases. complex slide. It's a schematic. I'm going to take you through it step by step this afternoon. That's the biochemistry inside of one bacterial cell. It's a lot of numbers and words and abbreviations in there. I put that up to make the point that we are the most highly complex biological system, highly organized, complex biological systems on this planet. We're not simple. And what regulates this spaghetti is what's called the endocannabinoid system. It's the regulator of all regulators. And key in discovering that system were these two men. You heard one earlier, Lumir Hanush and Dr. Raphael Marchou, candidates for a Nobel Prize. The discovery of the endocannabinoid system is one of the biggest medical finds of the last century. And when it's all unraveled, you'll realize the scope of that system. These are two of my favorite living scientists. Because I remember the day they discovered the receptor in the early 1990s, when it was announced. And I thought, well, there's actually a receptor for that. And because I follow the scientific medical literature, I've seen an absolute explosion in the amount of research being done around what's called the endocannabinoid system. It's huge. And this find is so big, it's almost overwhelming. The efficacy of the cannabis plant in human physiology is enormous. What I do, I don't normally speak to audiences. Normally I work in dark rooms with instruments with winking lights. I'm a lab rat. And this is a dinosaur instrument that we used for years. It's called high pressure liquid chromatography. And it quantifies and identifies the major compounds that make up a matrix. This particular instrument's collected more than 15,000 cannabinoid profiles over the years. We do roughly 15 or 10,000 a year, and I've been doing it for 16 years. So we have newer instruments in this now, but all cannabinoid labs need two instruments, HPLC and GCMS. This instrument will not see the terpenes, which is the other half of the cannabis story. I'll get into that in a minute. What this instrument does is it generates what's called a cannabinoid profile. Does that work? This one. This peak here is THC acid, and it's heated up. It turns 1 to 1. Into delta-9 THC. This compound is receptor active, this one is not. This is the carboxylated form. The carboxylated form of THC, this one is decarboxylated. THC acid has a carboxyl group, which is like an arm. It sticks out on it that prevents it from binding the receptor. That's the weakest bond of the molecule. When you heat it up, that blows off, and the compound can bind the receptor. That's why you just don't take a bud off the plant and eat it, because you won't get the cannabis effect. You've got to burn it in a joint or heat it in a brownie or heat it up somehow to activate it. I'll be giving a workshop on decarboxylation tomorrow, so I'll go into detail about what that's all about. This is a typical recreational cannabis profile. High THC, low CBD. This is the CBD cluster down here. CBD acid, CBD. This is THC acid and THC. The more of the compound there is, the bigger the peak. So you can see the ratio of THC to CBD is 200 to 1 or more in this sample. This is recreational cannabis. I call it psychoweed. My province is full of this high THC cannabis. THC has many, many uses. I never discount its importance. I know Bob Maloney will talk after me, gets a little annoyed with me because he holds THC in a little higher regard than myself. I say that CBD holds a greater medical future than THC, but we're yet to be proven. But I've seen this sort of profile 15,000 times, time and time again, high THC, low CBD. That's around 20% CBD in that sample. This is how we detect the cannabinoids. That peak is made by the absorption of UV light. This is the THC acid here. This is how it absorbs UV light at this wavelength. This is the wavelength of UV light going out that way, and this is the time on the chromatogram that it took to get there. You see the THC acid is absorbing a lot of UV light out into fairly long wavelengths. That allows us to identify the molecule by the UV spectrum. So we can identify it by how long it takes to travel along the column and also by the UV spectrum. So that's THC acid, that's delta-9 THC, that's cannabinol, that's cannabidiol there. This is a solvent peak, it's irrelevant. That's a show-off slide anyway. Once again, this is recreational cannabis, high THC, low CBD. Let's go to the hemp plant. This is CBD. This is 7 hemp profiles overlaid to make the point that time and time again in hemp, you'll see high CBD, low THC. Slovenia, Croatia, the Balkans are full of hemp plant, full of CBD. What you do here, you harvest the hemp plant, throw the stalk away, or if you're collecting it for fiber, you shake the seed off, collect the seed that you're going to sell, and throw the flower back into the field. There's tons of cannabidiol, very useful medicine, being thrown back into the field here every year. I would like to see it utilized, because it's very valuable. If you cross a hemp plant with a high THC strain, 1 in 4 will come out what I call a 50-50. That's the CBD there, that's the delta-9 THC, that's the THC acid. This has been partially decarboxylated by heat, but if you add up the area under this peak and the area under this peak and total them together for the total THC, you'll get about the same area as this peak was, which is the total CBD. I call these 50-50 strings. This one's called Halley's Comet, named after a young lady with epilepsy that we flatlined her seizures with. I'll talk about that in a bit. I say it is written. The genes that code for CBD and THC are codominant. They're either turned on or they're turned off. So you won't get sort of an in-between kind of ratio. You'll always get either high CBD, low THC, or high THC, low CBD, or roughly 50-50 mix. No 70-30s or 60-40s. It can't happen. I live with, I don't live close to, I live around breeders, and they'll come to me and say, I got a plant with 20% CBD and 5%, or 20% THC and 5% CBD. I'll say, no, you don't. You can't. It's not possible. It'll be less than 1%, 20% THC, or it'll be half and half, but there's no sort of in between. It can't happen. Cannabis efficacy, that means the desired effect. It's huge. It's an enormous range of illnesses that cannabis is useful in. And what I used to say is this is why it's illegal. It's so damn useful. I mean, the pharmaceutical business would go out of business. If it was legalized, everybody was using it. They would lose their analgesic business, their antidepressant business, their anti-inflammatory business. The pharmaceutical industry cannot have cannabis legalized. They are one of the leading, most profitable industries in the world. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but where I come from, there are 80-odd dispensaries in the city of Vancouver, storefronts that sell cannabis to people in need. Virtually all of those members, as they're called, have their doctor's acknowledgement of them using cannabis therapeutically. And by far, most are using it to manage chronic pain, 24/7 pain that comes from car accidents, on-the-job injuries, falls, viral infections, arthritis, many causes of chronic pain. Invariably cycling with pain is a mood disorder, depression, anxiety, you can't tie your shoe, you get pissed off, angry, your mood changes with the chronic pain. So you're managing both mood and pain. And cannabis is very effective at that. It's an antidepressant and it's also a good analgesic. I really like this image. It makes the point. And what the people in chronic pain tells me is it doesn't numb it, it doesn't go away like it does with an opiate. It takes that banging drum and moves it to a distance. You don't feel it as intensely, it kind of gets less important. I know a fellow that fell 28 feet. He was fixing a window, fell off a crane, and shattered his body. And when he came to me, he was full of opiates, a living dead person, like a zombie. After 6 months, he was taking daily oral cannabis. He quit all of the opiates. He went through 2 surgeries, only using cannabis for post-operative pain. He is a tremendous advocate for cannabis. He won the Cannabis Cup twice, 2 years in a row in Toronto. Has a car, a house. Before he was a mess. And he works with a lot of seriously injured workers in Canada who are in chronic pain and need cannabis for that relief. Kanabidiol. Talk about decarboxylation, that's the carboxyl group there that Armand was talking about. It prevents receptor binding. It's the same on CBD as on THC. This is CBD here, CBD acid and THC. The boiling points are here. This is important to understand for decarboxylation that I'll be talking about tomorrow. Decarboxylation, like I say, is activation of the molecule, so it becomes receptor active. A good generic time and temperature for most cannabis is around 160 centigrade for 45 minutes. You preheat the oven. If you're, like I say, every oven's different, every raw material is different, every matrix, the way you stack it into a container to heat it up is different. What I do is I take a large mason jar that you can heat over 350 degrees, pack it nice and tight with raw material, which is often shaped trim from the bud trim. Put on the top, seal it really tight, preheat the oven to 160, 163 centigrade, put it in for 45 minutes, take it out, let it cool, and then grind it up. And then put it into your butter, or into your baked goods, or into your capsules, or into your topicals, whatever you're going to make with activated cannabis. Please decarboxylate first. Because if you take your cannabis, and I know some people are looking at me like, I make my brownies this way. I put it into the butter and I heat up the butter and I get it decarboxylated. But Let me show you the next slide. In the butter or in the oil, the decarboxylation temperature goes up above 163 degrees. It's somewhere in between. You would actually need to stick a cooking thermometer into your oil to determine its temperature, and then get your sample measured to see if it's actually decarboxylated. We surveyed baked goods from 50-odd dispensaries in Vancouver, and we only found one that came out fully decarboxylated of around 60 samples. Only one. Most of them only 50% activated, meaning the baker could have taken a half pound of pot and thrown it in the garbage in terms of it being receptor active. Like I said, I gave you a generic time and temperature, but if you're seriously activating cannabis that you want fully decarboxylated, come up with a method like I just described, send a sample to a lab, figure out your degree of decarboxylation, record your operating procedure, and then then tweak it. If you're not fully decarboxylated, increase your temperature or time. Probably best to increase time a little bit to get full decarboxylation, but I say the proof is in the pudding. It's in the analytical result. The only way you know, you can't tell it by eating it or smoking it. You won't know. This is the decarboxylation bell curve. Temperature going up, THC acid decarboxylating, decreasing here. It's going away as it's turning into delta 9. The THC acid will turn 1-to-1 into delta 9. This is done in a GC injection port. It's not done in a mason jar. This is done with probably a half a gram sample in a very clean, accurately heated injection port of a gas chromatograph. So the number will be a little bit different for this because it's a different matrix. I'm just pointing out that there's variability in decarboxylation. You want to get to your optimal time and temperature with your signature raw material, the material that you'll be using most. We've heard a lot about receptors today, the CB1, CB2 receptor. THC binds both CB1 and CB2, but CBD doesn't. It kind of tickles it. It gets in the way of THC at the receptor, but it doesn't walk on. And I got interested in CBD really early on. THC, like I say, is psychoweed, and I don't want to get into what high THC consumption is like. Partner can scare the crap out of you. But CBD activity, I could understand that it might cure cancer as antioxidant, that it has somewhat activity in terms of THC at the receptor. Maybe it's neat to synergize the effect of THC at the receptor. That's been shown that THC or CBD by itself is not as effective as the two together. But then somebody showed that CBD bound the 5-HT receptor. That's the one that regulates your serotonin. It's the one that puts you to sleep, makes you feel good, makes you feel like you're in well-being. Is an anti-inflammatory. Then a lot of the mood effects of CBD started to make sense. Also, it's not receptor active, but it blocks an enzyme, another enzyme called the FAH enzyme. That's the enzyme that breaks down your body's own endocannabinoids, your own THC, anandamide, or 2-AG as they're called. Those are the molecules that your body makes to actually bind that cannabinoid receptor. The fact that THC from the plant binds a receptor in our bodies is just a fluke, in my mind. The same reason that opium bound it. Opiate is what we call the opiate receptor. I know if you're looking at me funny, Maya, you have at least evolutionist approach to this. The evolutionists give me shit for this because they say we evolved as long as the plant evolved with it, and our systems are there to bind the THC from the plant. It's not like that. Well, maybe it is, I don't know. It's, to a scientist, we're not, I guess, spiritual enough. I don't know how to place it. But anyway, CBD has a lot of activity. It also binds what's called the vanillin receptor, which is involved in inflammation and pain. It has a whole bunch of activities. It binds the adenosine receptor, which is involved in inflammation as well, and cancer. And it also, I don't know if they got it here, affects what's called the ID1 gene in breast cancer. And if that gene is inactivated, there's no metastasis of the breast cancer. It can actually control the spread of breast cancer. So CBD has a broad range of activity, more so than these other cannabinoids. And one thing it is very effective at is treating anxiety. And I've never met a person that likes feeling anxious. Like I have been halfway through this talk, you're noticing my voice is starting to change, so I'm starting to calm down. There's actually a study done with CBD where they measured the stress of people in front of an audience, which is highly stressful for most people. They measure blood rate and breathing and so on. And they gave CBD to people who were in front of this stress test, and they found a significant decrease in anxiety. Anxiety, I never met anyone who likes it. It crosses over into many other illnesses like PTSD and depression, ADHD, mental clarity. You've heard the expression mental imbalance. That's neurotransmitters that aren't working properly. CBD, being the master regulator, pushes and pulls in homeostasis that neurotransmission is affecting 5-HT. It's affecting the adenosine receptor, it's affecting acetylcholine receptor. It's modulating your whole CNS. That can make you undepressed, unanxious, anti-ADHD. When I take it's so much information now around these compounds, but when I take a high dose of CBD, I take a medium dose. I'll get mental clarity, focus, want to get on with my day, no anxiety. I get mental clarity, and then I'll get a little rush of anger, a mini rage. I think that could be to do with the mental clarity when you start seeing how things really are. But I believe it has a huge, huge future as an anti-anxiety compound. Like I mentioned, you have hemp fields growing here in Slovenia. Those hemp fields are full of cannabidiol. Those hemp fields are full of anti-anxiety medicine, and it's natural medicine. It's herbal medicine. All you have to do is collect the trichomes to collect the flowers, which is legal. I understand it's legal. Not legal where I come from. We're not allowed to collect hemp flowers. Although Saskatchewan farmers don't often obey the federal government, they're of a different breed. These are some of the receptor activities of CBD. I've already been through most of them. This is an orphan receptor. It's thought maybe to be another endocannabinoid receptor where CBD blocks it and has an anti-cancer effect. Just making the point that CBD doesn't have a lot of activity at CB1 or CB2 receptors, but is active at other receptors and enzyme systems. We too often forget enzyme, how important they are in biological functions. Like I already mentioned, it affects FAH enzyme, cytochrome P450 enzyme, really important for your medical doctor if indeed you're taking pharmaceutical drugs at the same time as taking high doses of CBD, you must inform your medical doctor that you're doing so, because there is a potential of a cross reaction. The kids we've been working with epilepsy, the more unpredictable results, the more pharmaceutical drugs they're taking. If they're not taking any pharmaceutical drugs, we can, I don't say guarantee, but we get a pretty good chance of flatlining their epileptic seizures. If there's Dilantin or lamotrigine or another anti-seizure drug, it'll be even more confusing. Antioxidant properties are extremely important, autoimmune, neurological, cancer, aging. CBD is a good anti-aging formula. Works wonders on women's faces in a cream. They seem to like it. Effective in Alzheimer's too. Antioxidants are very important. More powerful than vitamin C or E as an antioxidant, which are well known. I call it cannabis, but there's more than 400 names for pot. There's only 200 for the male penis. Gives you an idea of its relevance. This is some data from GW Pharmaceuticals. This is on a retroactive study where they corralled a bunch of mothers who were giving their children cannabis for epileptic seizures. And they accumulated the data and found that more than 80% of using cannabis there was seizure relief, or the seizures went away altogether, which is my experience too. Around 80% of the people that we treat for epilepsy, the seizures go away, if there's no pharma meds involved. We have Haley, who I'll talk about, who was 14, Kyla 2, Pika 5, here in Slovenia, Charlotte, she's 5. Who else do we have? We have a number of kids in Slovenia that are using Kanabidiol for epileptic seizures. This is more on the side effects of Kanabidiol on those seizures. Decreased self-stimulation is an autistic effect. I struggled with that for a few minutes. I wasn't sure what they meant by that. Problems with appetite, decreased fatigue, drowsiness, but that's in 40%. And those aren't bad side effects compared to some pharmaceuticals. Actually, they look pretty good. I got this profile, the highest CBD, equal amount of THC, flatline this young lady's seizures at 14 years old. She's now 22, graduated from high school in a special program. I was part of her entourage, escorting her to her high school graduation. What an honor that was. She wasn't expected to live past 15. She was having status epileptic seizures where they seize for longer than 5 minutes. They don't know whether they're going to live or die. Extraordinary girl, real fighter. And she only has seizures now when she has her period. We can't get rid of them all. Really annoying. Because when we first, a bit of a story behind this, Mark Emery, who some of you may have heard of, is a big activist in Canada, the one who was taken by the DEA out of Canada and put in Louisiana jail for 5 years for selling seed. He had a vapor lounge in Vancouver, and Haley's mom, when she was 14, brought Haley into the lounge because she heard that cannabis might help the girl's seizures. They vaporized the girl, and Mom immediately noticed a difference in her mood and her pre-seizure activity that she was always showing. But Mark didn't want a 14-year-old smoking in his dispensary, so sent her up to the dispensary that I was at, because he knew that I was into standardized oral cannabis preps. When Mom brought her to me, I knew that there was no high CBD strains in the club. And then 2 days later, a hippie kid from the island across the water from Vancouver brings in some pot he wants to sell. And the protocol of the club is they give it to myself. I would run it on the HPLC, tell them how much THC, because that's what they're selling, was in it. And then the club would buy it. So the kids sat in my lab as I ran the sample, and the first peak to come out is CBD. And I look at psycho weed, the littlest bit of CBD and the high THC stuff time and time again, and I see this peak start coming out, and I go, oh wow, this is good. And then I start getting real excited because it keeps going up, right? So I knew I got something I can treat Haley with, and the kid starts to cry. And I've told this story many times in lectures, because 2 days later we had this into an oral prep. I gave it to Haley's mom, and Haley gave it to the girl, and she flatlined. No more daily seizures to nothing. She went silent. Nobody could believe it. We took her to Children's Hospital. They ran an EEG CAT scan on her. Indeed, a significant decrease in that crazy seizure activity. And she didn't seize for almost a month, and she had her period. She had her, oh, shit. But then she flatlined again for another 28 days. And does that to this day, 8 years later. We got ideas on how to get rid of it. But Haley was our first success story with epilepsy and the power of CBD in controlling those seizures. We've actually ceased other seizures by giving her more THC. She will seize more CBD, less seizures. For some reason, Haley needs this 50-50 CBD-THC mix. 90% of our other successes have just been with high CBD and a little bit of THC. Haley's now in a home. There's mom and her need separation. But she's doing well, and has a lot of attention where I come from, because people with epilepsy are seeking out that strain, Haley's Comet, which is a rare strain. It actually came from a cross between a Texata time warp, which is a well-known BC bud strain. That's who Mommy is, but nobody knows who Daddy is, but we figure it's the hemp. It must be a hemp strain that hit this high THC strain and turned it into a 50-50. It's grown on a native Indian estuary near a salmon river spawning ground, this particular strain. That's interesting fertilizer. A note on dosing. This is on chronic pain, which I've done really most of my work on with people using cannabis therapeutically. If you smoke cannabis, you'll get relief here, not here, here, not here, here. That's the way you'll go through your day, kind of a spike-like pain relief from smoking cannabis, because it only lasts about an hour or 2 hours to relief. If you eat cannabis, you go on a 4 to 6 hour plateau. You get more relief from an oral dose. It takes longer to come on, but I believe it's much more effective in treating chronic pain. The other way is you put it up your bum in a suppository. Very effective too. It'll also prevent you from, if you don't like the high, if you're using a high THC prep, if you don't like the high in a suppository, you won't get first pass through the liver, you won't get production of delta-11 THC, which is more potent. You won't get as high. That's the point I'm making. You're using a suppository, but you'll still get the same effect from the cannabis, from the THC. I got it here. It takes 60 to 90 minutes to come on in an oral dose. That's where most overdosing occurs, is an unstandardized brownie. You eat a brownie, you don't know how much activated THC in it. 20 minutes later, you feel yourself getting high, and then there's no turning back, and then you're talking to God, and you're praying to stay alive, and you get the fear and the paranoia, and I gotta get out of here. That's the THC overdose. It can be one of the most frightening experiences you ever had. You'll know you're gonna die, but you won't. There's never been a recorded death from a cannabis overdose anywhere. It's just the fear and the paranoia caused from THC binding that CB1 receptor. It can be very, very frightening. There are ways to come down that I'll go in a minute. Anyway, there's a big fad on juicing cannabis. I'll just touch on that for a minute. The juice comes out here, the pulp comes out here. There's no cannabinoids in the juice. They all hate water and they jump into the pulp. They don't want to be in water at all. They do anything they can to get away from water because they're so fat soluble. Anyway, not to discount the juice as not being good. It's full of minerals, vitamins, flavonoids, phenolics, some of them are known anti-cancer properties. It's highly nutritious. Drink as much as you like. If you want to maybe get high or get the effects of cannabinoids, take that pulp, heat it up, like I said, same time and temperature, and eat it. Mix it into a yogurt. Yogurt's an excellent medium for ingesting cannabis. It's particularly a fatty yogurt with a probiotic bacteria, helps absorption. This is a 40 power picture of a cannabis plant showing what are called trichomes. These are the exudate glands on the outside of the plant. There's no cannabinoids in the actual plant material itself, none to speak of. They're resin that are exudated onto the outside of the plant into these silver crystal balls, often called crystal. When people are buying cannabis, they'll look for it, see if there's a lot of crystal on it. Under the microscope, they look like this. The medicine is made at the base, the terpenes and cannabinoids, and they go into this wax-coated ball here. These can be shaken off the plant. This is the first stage of cannabis flower purification, is you can physically knock these off in a tumbler, like a clothes dryer that has a screen on the bottom. The screen filters the trichomes through by size. You collect them on the bottom, you scrape them off. You have 90% of the medicine from the plant in those trichomes. Then you heat them up, decarboxylate them, and use them appropriately. A word on terpenes, the other half of the story. Some of these are receptor active, anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory. With my HPLC, I don't see them. You need GCMS, like Dr. Hanush has, to see these terpenes. In my mind, they make up the euphoria of the cannabis experience, the high. THC by itself, in my mind, is boring. Nothing really happens. I made what I call the bald and hairy prep one time. The bald prep had a known amount of THC. The hairy prep had an equal amount of THC, but all of the other cannabinoids and terpenoids. I took the bald prep on one day, the hairy prep on a couple of days later. The bald prep was boring. I didn't feel anything really. I'm not in pain, so I don't know if it really in pain, maybe a bit hungry. But when I took the hairy prep, I got the whole cannabis experience. I got the euphoria and the enlightenment and all the other psychological effects that go along with a cannabis high. So it's not all about THC. The other cannabinoids, the terpenoids, are important for that kind of cannabis experience. Our Canadian government bans euphoria as a medicine. They don't like it. I think the definition was to feel good. I have no problems with euphoria and pain relief or mood or depression. This is what I call the ingenuity of the hash smoker. Within the cannabis world, there are so many inventions, so many gadgets and ways of doing things. And somebody spent a lot of time relating smell and taste to certain strains of cannabis here, because they all smell different. When somebody buys a bag of cannabis, the first thing they do is smell it, because They're looking for a particular flavor or an effect or a calming or whatever that's in the terpenes. That's the aromatics, the essential oils of the plant. There's a whole medical science out there called aromatherapy. It hasn't had the use of these compounds because they've been banned as long as the plant. They're not to be discounted. They're receptor active, very useful molecules. They also make good solvent to dissolve cannabinoids in. If you do get high on cannabis and you want to come down, these are some ancient antidotes. The lemon juice, just a lemon peel in a glass of water, calamus root, pine nuts, which most people have in their cooking chop, a handful of pine nuts or black pepper will help dissolve the high. There's another supplement called citicoline that Dr. Malamud will mention that will knock the THC high out, but still give you the effect, the medical benefit of the cannabinoids, but you won't get the high. There are many people that avoid cannabis because they don't like the high. That's the THC. You don't get high on CBD, it's not psychoactive. Your 50-50 strain is kind of an in-between on getting high. Because the CBD will buffer the effect of THC, so you won't get the full effect of, say, 10% of THC if there's CBD in the mix in an equal amount. So another way to buffer a high is to take CBD. I'm about to finish now. I've often described cannabis research as being inside of a rubber bubble. Push your arm out, it snaps back, push your foot out, it snaps back, because legality is on the other side of the bubble. There's all that bureaucracy in between. My cause, my thing after 16 years of researching this plant is that it's the most useful plant on the planet, most efficacious herbal medicine we have. You can make clothing out of it, they make brake shoes out of it in Germany, you can make petroleum out of it, you can make valuable food out of it. If we fully utilize this plant that's been banned for 90 years, we have an industrial revolution on our hands. Everything will change because there's just a different supply of everything that we use anyway is coming from a renewable resource. The fact that it's been prohibited for so long, in my mind, is just plain insanity. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense. But then I've never been afraid of it. It's been demonized to myself all my life, but I never feared it. And I think that's what really has to be overcome, our fear that we've been told so long this is a bad plant, but it's actually a really good plant. The fact that it makes you high, that's just one aspect of it. It can be eliminated for you in your medicine. I say, if you have to talk to your politicians, tell them that we're not going to vote for you unless you legalize it. Let's just make it all legal instead of regulating it and putting stacking more paper up around it. Just legalize it. We'll all utilize it. Everybody should grow their own.